She is a native of the Faroe Islands, I believe, and so it's a great, great pleasure to welcome her here. And I want to also thank the Faroese government, Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Commerce, for the support they have provided to all of the events that are taking place here. And now I ask you to welcome Dagmar Malena Winther. Dagmar?
Good evening, everyone. It's an honor to be here tonight. It's not every day we get the chance to present Faroese art and artists here in the middle of Manhattan. So thank you for having us here and for coming here tonight. My name is Dagmar Winther, and tonight I will start by telling you a little bit about the Faroe Islands, and then I will show you something that is what you could call special about art in the Faroe Islands. I will show you some of the masterpieces from Faroese art, just to give you a short overview of what Faroese art looks like. And lastly, I will discuss the cultural identity within the contemporary arts landscape. So, some of you might have heard of the Faroe Islands. It's 18 small islands in the middle of the North Atlantic, and it's home to 55,000 people. Here you see an image of the Parliament building in the Faroe Islands, in the capital of Tórshavn. This is a map. You can see the Faroe Islands are situated up there between Iceland, Norway, and Scotland. We have our own government and language, but are also a part of Denmark. And as you can see in the exhibition, some of you already saw the exhibition in works by Thorodur Poulsen. There were ships filled with cargo that they were almost they were balancing with all these containers. And as you see, that shows we are also dependent on import and export to other countries, although we are also quite isolated in this area. And for the last 4 weeks, we just had a worker strike, which meant that we had no commodities coming in or out of the country. No gas or fruits for 4 weeks, for example. Yeah, so here's an image of Tórshavn, the capital, with around 20,000 people. So, with a little introduction to the Faroe Islands, let's turn our heads towards art. And well, I knew when I came here that it would be a large contrast from the Faroe Islands to coming here. But I must say I had a little bit of a shock on the evening I arrived of how large everything is. And the skyscrapers and the diversity and the people and the heat. After a good night's sleep, and I slowly acclimatized to a big city life. So one of the obvious differences between Faroe Islands and New York is, of course, the size. So this one, you know this one? This is Anish Kapoor, a large public sculpture in Chicago. It reflects the cityscape and the thousands of people who come there every day. This is a drop in the sea of light from 2019. It's located in one of the smallest islands of the 18 small islands. What do these two sculptures have in common? Well, they have both grown out of great ambitions, both artistically and from the step takers. They're both made out of mirror-polished stainless steel, and they reflect and engage with the surroundings. In Chicago, there are 2.7 billion people. In Svøynøy, this island, there are 27 people. And in Svøynøy, a group of people took the initiative to set up a sculpture in honor of those who had died in accidents, for example at sea or in the cliffs. Instead of setting up a physical monument, they went to a leading contemporary artist and funded a large sum of money. And the artist, he partnered up with a steel factory in Germany, a large steel factory that has made many different sculptures around the world. And they reported on some interesting questions and the emails coming from the Faroe Islands. So, is the steel ram-proof? They asked. Well, ram-proof, why should it be that? They had not experience with the steel sculptures where majority of the crowd was cheap. Yes, the National Gallery. You see an image of it here. And during World War II, all ties were cut between Denmark and the Faroe Islands. During this time, the Faroese students in Copenhagen, they started a Faroese Art Association, and their mission was to collect art that would eventually be housed in the Faroe Islands. And a few years after the war, the parliament also established a Faroese art collection. And, oh yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. And these two collections from the Parliament and the Art Association were merged in 1989 into the National Gallery of the Faroe Islands. And here is you see a little sneak peek to the art depot. And the museum is home to around 3,000 works of art. The oldest are from the 1830s, but most of them are from the 1930s and onwards. So the National Gallery, it presents both older and contemporary art, and it has a permanent collection and changing exhibitions, and around 33,000 people visit the museum every year. Around a third are tourists, and although the visitor numbers have increased a lot the last years, it's nothing like here in New York. I learned the hard way yesterday, and they have queues all outside the museums. And but we are in the process of modernizing these facilities to accommodate the larger visitor numbers. So this summer we are starting renovations and expansions of the museum. You see a couple of visualizations here. Yes. So, what's special about Faroese art? For a small country like this, you can imagine that building a visual art has also been connected to defining ourselves and our visual identity in the world. So, Faroese artists, they only started receiving formal education 100 years ago. And today it is a scene with many artists that live and practice on the island. So even though it is a short art history compared to most other countries, the art scene has emerged with relatively many artists and a very intense and large span of production with different styles and expressions. Let me show you a very special artwork. This is from 2020. What you see here is the first underwater roundabout in the world. And although we are islanders and in that sense somehow isolated, there have been great ambitions and efforts to connect the islands with subsea tunnels. And this one connects two of the large islands with an 11-kilometer long tunnel. And here, 70 meters under the surface, there is a roundabout and an artwork. This is a light and steel installation by Tröndur Patterson. See a close-up here. And you see people are taking each other's hands and making a ring around the roundabout. They are dancing the traditional Faroese chain dance, where you sing ballads of legend, at this time at the bottom of the sea. And while you drive through this, yes?
Are there pedestrians in the towns or just cars?
Only cars. Yes, only cars. So while you drive through this tunnel, you can also hear an immersive soundscape installation that goes on the radio channel while you drive through the tunnel. Another thing that is quite special in Faroe Islands about the art, and which Emily also told you about in the tour right before, is that you'll find original artworks in almost every home, no matter the economic situation. That's how come. One factor could be that the small population also fosters many connections and large relationship circles. So almost everyone knows someone who is an artist, and several large firms such as banks and insurance companies have bought art to support artists and given it to the employees for jubilees or to hang up in their departments. And also original artworks such as lithographies and smaller artworks are also a very common gift for weddings and other large events. And these come at an affordable price. So you see both young people and the adults buying and collecting art and appreciating art also at home. Here is an example for a Faroese home. Different kinds of both painting and aquarels and lithographies and so on. Another thing is that the Faroe Islands, you have no art academy, but a large number of the artists have moved to other countries to study. For example, to Denmark or Sweden, Finland, and the UK, Iceland. And many of them have returned to the islands and others have stayed abroad. And this also means that the Faroese art isn't as isolated as one could assume. And the artists have met international styles and inspirations and then dealt with them in relation to their background and aspirations. Yes. So now I will show you a few masterworks from our collection. Most of them are from the collection. So first of all, I will introduce you to Dagmar Malena Winther, and he's the one who was from the island I pointed out before, the westernmost island. He was born in 1906. And you can imagine that the circumstances have been very different on a small and remote island. So it's different from today, and choosing a path of artistic education as a pioneer of the country has been a remarkable goal. And Michne studied in Denmark and had exceptional gifts, and he had a baggage of a culture and a nature heritage that had yet to be given an artistic language. The Michnes, he draws on this inspiration from cultural identity, and he paints life on the islands and events and traditions and places. And some of the paintings show some relatedness to the famous Norwegian painter Edvard Munch. Here you see a painting of the dance, the chain dance again, which you also saw in the subsea tunnel. And here he has not only managed to capture the chain dance, but also the movement and the atmosphere of this dance. Here you see one of the absolute masterworks by Michnes. It's called Home from the Funeral. It's a very large painting, and it's been a very ambitious and large undertaking for a young artist. And we see a close-up here, a monumental pyramid of 8 people on a boat. They're sailing back home from the funeral. Their faces are almost mask-like, although he had made very detailed sketches of some of this motif beforehand. You see the light is vaguely shining through the sky, and the man in the back who sits at the rudder, he does a movement with his body that makes a dynamic into the painting and makes us sense that we are on a boat at sea. Yeah. And living in a small island like this, where there were not so many people, around 100, many of them also had death close to life. It was ships they foundered, and sometimes people fell down in the bird cliffs. And also if an illness hit, like tuberculosis, it could hit very hard in such a small place. So most inhabitants had death close to life. And Myksnes also himself, he lost 2 siblings and his father in the beginning of 30s. And during this time, he starts painting these very dark and sorrowful paintings, which he also became very famous for. This piece is called Back from Sightseeing. This is made by Edvard Fugla, the same one who made the steel drop. And here you see a humorous and free paraphrase of this most famous painting by Myksnes. And here you see that the content of grief and living under these harsh conditions has shifted. The figures are dressed in Gore-Tex clothes, and you see a backpack, and the light has become a sleeping bag, and makers and everything. And here Fugla has a critical eye on our lack of tolerance sometimes towards the fortunes of fate. And equipped with the right gear, we still can't control the weather conditions. And when tourists, which we have had a large increased amount of during the last years, they also get their trips to Myksnes cancelled during summer times. So these 2 works point to very different circumstances and expectations of being in control. In other words, Fugla reflects on the tourist gaze and the proportions in size. Here you see a little village in the Faroe Islands and the microstate camper. This is one of my absolute favorite paintings by Myksnes. It's called Ships Depart on a Spring Day. You see a woman, she's dressed in a blue dress, and you see the ocean. It takes up a large part of the composition. On the large ocean there is a little ship, probably her husband is on board. She is slowly turning towards the village again, and you see Myksnes has removed all other items such as sheep or stones or birds or other things you would see in such a landscape, just to bring out this sense of to bring out the composition. And you see the colors are very different from the funeral picture. They are bright, and they are vibrant, and they have a sense of longing and hope that he will come back. In this altarpiece in a little church in the Faroe Islands, here you see Jesus in a rowing boat, a famous Bible scene. And here Myksnes brings it into a Faroese context, also to make it more relatable at the islands. Yes. So, in the Faroe Islands there can be 4 seasons in a day, and everything depends on the weather. And therefore it's not very strange that these ever-changing forces of nature, they have had a great impact. They have had a great impact on the Faroese art during the 20th century. And the landscape interpretations are many, and they have come in every form, and often in semi-abstract and expressionistic works. And in the Faroe Islands, we more than often have waterfalls running upwards. Here you see a painting which has, you see this, the weather in this painting. It is by Ruth Smith, a female artist from the southernmost island. She was born in 1930, and like many other Faroese artists, she went to the academy in Copenhagen. And she developed this remarkable style where colors blend very naturally into each other. And this is one of my favorite paintings by her. It's painted of the village where she lived in Est. She moved back after being in Denmark. And you see parts of the canvas are left unpainted, and the painting almost grows out of the canvas. And you could imagine that if she had stopped 5 seconds before or after, the motive would have looked whole different. So you see, she can manage to catch this fleeting moment and to paint the wind and the weather. Here are 2 great self-portraits by Ruth Smith. made 1 year between each other. Here she is standing in a red shirt and her palette in front of her. She has a cold background behind her, and she stands here as the artist Ruth Smith. This painting has, a few years back, it was on the display in Washington. And here you see her a year later, a whole different portrait, painted herself as part of the living room. The contours are not so focused as there, and she's a bit closer to us, no palette between us. I was in MoMA yesterday. I saw these very, very, very impressive works by Jackson Pollock, the large ones. And if we were to look at a Faroese Jackson Pollock, this would be Thomas Arge. He went up to the mountains. Here's a stony landscape, a rocky landscape west of Tórshavn. A bit of the same style as the action painters. This is another one of the great Faroese artists, Ingólfur and Reine. The former director of the gallery, he published a book recently where this painting was the cover. And it is I think it's a very interesting painting because it is of a small village called Eldevik, but you see it is painted with styles and inspirations from abroad. And what's interesting here is that the painting shows this relationship between something Faroese, the classic motif of a village, but in the French style and use of color. You also see an interior painting beside it. So this is a form and a style that he has learned during his time at the Academy Copenhagen. And then slowly he paints himself towards this. This is a large painting. It's called Trollerdek. An abstract painting, quite abstract. It is the deck of a troller. You can sense the horizon and the sea and the sky there, and that this might be the deck. But you see, it was more and more abstract. The use of color there is a lot of color, but in a whole other way than what we saw before. This is a painting by Stefan Danielsen. He was a self-taught artist from an island just outside of Tórshavn. It's a cityscape, far from New York. And what's interesting here is that he had another way of painting and capturing his surroundings. He didn't have any academic background or styles in the same way as many other artists. And you see, everything is in this picture, the cables and everything. This, you wouldn't see this in many other paintings, so that's why it's quite interesting. Also this image here, very interesting composition where half of the painting is this black wall, and you see into the house and you see out through the last houses on the other side. And then this one, I had to look this word up. It's called French. You do have one. It's called a hay drying rack. Didn't see this in Manhattan. I thought you had everything here. But what's interesting here is that he chooses this as his motive, because in most other landscape paintings from France, you see the village and you see some of this. Here he has chosen a motive that you wouldn't see when you walk around the mountains. Chosen it as his motive and halted in almost monochrome colors. Here is, can you see what this is? You might see the title there. This is Janus Kampan. He is one of the minimalists in Faroese art. He was a sculptor, famous sculptor, and he also did these lino cuts. Here you see the Eve and the Lamb, only 5 lines, and he manages to capture all this life into the image. It's hard to do so much with 5 lines. That's right. Here you see an example of this abstract, semi-abstract, expressionistic artwork Boar Jakobsson, a large painting. You see the vertical lines of the cliffs, you sense the sea, and the colors in this painting. So, and this one. This is Akke Mortensen. The wind blows wherever it wants. This is a more poetic title. It tries to paint something in a visible movement of the sea. It uses many layers to do this. So some of the works I saw in MoMA yesterday, they could go have some connections there. This is a painting by Zacharias Heinesen. He was born in 1936. This is his view down over Torshavn. You see the houses, the sea, the horizon, and the sky above. It's interesting, sometimes I have tours in the galleries, and there are people coming from countries where there are no sea. This is a completely abstract painting. But this is the most usual scenery you will see in the Faroe Islands. Everywhere you go, you see this, the houses, the sea, there's sea everywhere, where you go. This is a container installation by Tröndur Pettersson, the same who did the subsea tunnel. He sailed in a bamboo boat from China to America, and there he experienced being in the middle of the sea, having the whole ocean beneath him and the sky above him, and he wanted to recreate this feeling of the cosmic blue, he calls it. And when you go into this container, you can see 700 meters up and down. It's a very popular installation at the gallery, both for kids and for adults. Not everyone dares to go in there if they are afraid of heights. Yeah, so Faroese art is young, but we have a rich culture of storytelling and through the sagas and the ballads that go back centuries. And this narrative perspective is also something that you see in the visual art, where these figures and stories are portrayed. This is, and you see local landscapes that are inhabited by trolls and all of these stories. This is a large wooden installation of Sjurur, the dragon slayer, riding up the mountain. I have a song with the same name, Sjurur. This is William Heinesen, wonderful paper cut and a pastel chalk, where this is the agitator you see here. This is a great fairy tale picture of Doomsday in the village of Klaksvik in the Faroe Islands. Here you see the mountain. This is the highest mountain in the Faroe Islands. I saw this one on some posters around the house. Sigrun Gunnarsdóttir, I think she was here showing her documentary here, Artist. A very funny and great documentary, I can recommend it. She works with size, proportions, and symbols. I had two small boys here at the gallery showing this painting. I asked them what they could see in this picture. Oh, well, they could see this small yellow flower in this painting. So something, it's working. When you're working with these proportions, sometimes it's the other things that come around. You see it down in the corner there, the church. This is also by her, the book of the books. Here the old Faroese woman sitting in a chair, and you see that the hands have been in focus. They have been enlarged to also to draw the attention to all the work that the women in Faroese society have done. Again, here you see a bird that is situated right in the middle of where the light comes in to the floor. This one is called "The Hand That Moves the Cradle Rules the World." Yes, this one is called "Baby Boom." Here you see Astrid Andreasen. She has knitted 26 small sweaters and put them together to this composition. It is of different traditional patterns. In the Faroe Islands you will see many woolen sweaters because wool has been a primary material. It's more than often that we find people standing in front of this piece and counting the patterns so they can go home and knit something from this. Yes. So, what does Faroese art look like today? As in other countries, the medias and the motifs, materials are becoming more and more diverse. Some of you have already seen the exhibition upstairs with very different practices. This exhibition, it presents great contemporary art from 7 Faroese artists. And these artists, they work ambitiously with their medium and style, and it is evident that none of them work with something national in the sense of nation building. There are elements that point towards national heritage, but they can transcend this context and they live on their own. The textile works, which you might see by Alda Moreinaretter and Randi Samsonsen, they build on a tradition of knitting, as you saw with the other work also, but they do so with artistic ambitions and materiality choices that also challenge and extend the culture that they have grown out of. Thor de Poulsen, the one with the cargo ships that are filled with containers, he treats topics that are more in the Faroese society with more humor and critical angle, while the other artists, Anne Bjerstanløy, Hansine Iversen, Rana Kuhnøy, and Johan Marsten Christiansen, they explore their media and material, and they do not reveal many tangible connections to the islands in that sense. Like Alta and Randi, the textile artists upstairs, there are also other artists that are revitalizing this wool and knitting in artistic ways, like Ragnhild Hauger is doing here. And another talented artist is Silja Ström. She lives in London, and this is a large painting that was commissioned for the police headquarters in the Faroe Islands. This is probably not the first kind of painting that will come to mind when you decorate a police station. We see people in different situations and positions. Some are pulling each other up. There's a dance ring here in the middle, can you see it? And some are alone and some are together, reaching out. And this beautiful and humorous and also vulnerable composition, it embodies these diverse roles and responsibilities within a society, and that was what the police station felt for. So this is in the reception when you come. And the dance ring, you might have some references to Matisse's dance ring that you have here in MoMA. Not so much Michenes's dance ring, maybe. And these classical motifs in architecture and art history, they are also other contemporary artists. Here you see a 6-meter high sculpture by the ceramic Guri Poulsen. It is called Karyatid, and it is a monument for women who died giving birth. And the column is a supporting element, and here it suggests the concrete place in the world that these women still have. And it also forms the shape of an abstract woman. It's a new piece from 23. Over here you see a column by Jonsson and Jensen, and he works with materials from the building trade and industrialization. And here he has a modern take on the columns and functions, and here the column needs some support. So the visual art has certainly been a part of nation building and of a visual identity. But it is not all nature and views and tradition. And as I mentioned in the beginning, the Faroe Islands are a modern society with export and import and a consumer society. And here Folklore has given the Faroese flag. This is the Faroese flag you see here. They give them the alternative building blocks. It is in the white parts you see cornflakes and diapers and detergent. The red you see frozen pizza and Colgate and Pringles. And in the blue you see some Pepsi, Snuff and energy drinks. I will end with this painting by Edvard Folklore. It's called The Colony. We see an army of gannets and they are dressed in suits. They stand together and almost like a political party, but they are turning their head in different directions. The suit is a global dress code, and here the question can be if they are, whether the Faroe Islanders are keeping their integrity in the global business world, or if we have just put on a suit, trying to fit in. And Folklore himself, he says that those who travel the most and thrive best in the Faroe Islands are clearly the birds. And this self-irony of the artist also highlights the conflict that can be for a semi-autonomous country to maintain an identity, but at the same time also wanting to be part of the globalization. If you have any questions, you're welcome to raise your hand. Anything that you would like to hear more about or anything, just let me know. Yes. And if not, yeah, one there, yes, yeah.
The furniture in the house scene,
Yes.
very early, is that furniture considered art as well, or is that imported? I mean, was it locally made?
It is imported, most of it. Actually, we have the owner of the house sitting here, so she can answer if there was anything locally produced. No, imported furniture. Yes.
The windows are.
The windows. Yes. Yeah. No, so mostly the art, but it is very fascinating to come into different houses. You will see great pieces of art hanging around. Also masterworks that are in different people's home, and some have been in the families for many years, and others have these contemporary great paintings, also large paintings in these houses. Faroese people tend to build very large houses for their families, so there's sometimes also some room for a large painting. Yeah. Yes?
It didn't seem like the traditional art reflected seriously the industry, which is mostly fishing.
Yeah.
So it was sort of there, the sea is there,
Yeah.
but somehow they didn't seem to focus on the industry.
No, that's right. I have chosen some works out here, but if you come visit us at the gallery, we have a whole exhibitions room only for the sea. But it is correct. It is not so much about the industry. It is mainly this fascination by nature and by the sea. And it's not until a bit later that this industrialization is a large part. You will see paintings of the ships and of fishing and so on, but the industrialization as such is mostly now in the contemporary art, where there's also this more critical angle. Yeah.
And the weaving as well, right?
And the weaving, yeah. We also have several artworks that are weaved, sometimes on display. We have also this room for that. It's actually divided into all these different themes that you will find in the Faroese art. Yes?
I have a question. Thank you for a nice presentation. People often say the Faroe Islands is very isolated, that trends take like 10, 20, 30 years to come to the Faroe Islands versus the US. How are you seeing trends that are happening locally? Like travel to the Faroe Islands? Are they traveling at the same pace as they go to Europe and places? Or is there a lag, or do they even make it at all to the Faroes?
I think it is now that people have access to everything, you can see everything online and on your phone. It is the trends are very close. If you want them, it's easy to gain access. It's also to travel abroad to see different things. So I think in the contemporary art scene, you see different kinds of many of the trends, but not everything that has come to the islands yet. It's also many of the artists, they often have this area they work within and that they work more and more with. For example, in some kind of sculpture or in painting or different kinds. And we don't have artists in all fields like you do in other countries. So yeah, I think you see the trends in the Faroe Islands, but not this in the same variety as you see here.
Of course, it's a question of budget, but are there any future plans to hold something like a biennial? For instance, in Norway, they had Momentum in the island of Jolie, which is really a lovely thing to garner international recognition. Do you have any plans like that?
Yeah, with the building project that will start this summer, it will actually give the opportunity to also have art from abroad to be shown in the Faroe Islands. Because up till now we have not had the facilities to be able to take in loans from other museums, because there are very strict criteria from everything with the air and everything. So now with these new facilities we will have the possibility to show art from abroad in the Faroe Islands, and maybe that also leads to some more connections with other institutions abroad. Yeah. Yes.
Do you know if there's art fellowships in the Faroe Islands?
Art fellowships? Yeah, there are not. I'm sure I understand what fellowship is, but if you're asking about like residencies and there are residencies that you can come to. Janus Kampan, the one with the 5 lines with the Eve and the Lamb, he actually donated his house to an artist residence, and there is one more also. And if you are interested in them, I can give you the contact to them. Yeah. Yes. And if there's no more questions, I want to say thank you very much for tonight. It's been a pleasure to be here and to show you Faroese art. And thank you to Emily and Kyle and Scandinavia House for this. And if you ever come to the Faroe Islands, you are very welcome to visit us at the National Gallery, and I will show you more paintings and works. Thank you.